The running of the 2009 Kentucky Derby left a lot of handicappers around the country scratching their heads. And we're speaking with John Roselli by video hookup. What exactly happened yesterday, John?
I watched one of the most unbelievable upsets in Kentucky Derby or any race history.
So, John, Mind That Bird is very well bred. So exactly what did the handicappers miss on this one?
Here we have a horse who was the Canadian juvenile champion last year. He's not totally unaccomplished, but he was beaten badly in his two dirt routes in the U.S., the Sunland Derby and the Borderland Derby, and faded toward the end. So you couldn't think he has much of a chance at a mile and a quarter.
So to be fair to you, John, you're not the only handicapper that completely missed this one. Andy Byer, Stephen Chris, Jay Privman, nobody really hit this thing. So how was it that the professional handicappers and the actual race result, there was such a disparity?
Handicapping is not going to always find the winner. And that sometimes what happens in a race, it depends on what happens during the race and not what's on paper before the race.
So what unexpected events contributed to Mind That Bird's upset victory?
The slop really seemed to take everyone out of it. The pace was fairly hot and the field was fairly closely bunched, so I think a lot of people were just spinning their wheels toward the end.
Even track announcer Tom Durkin missed Mind That Bird's move through the stretch.
Calvin Burrell gave a brilliant ride. If you watch the replay, watch the move that Mind That Bird makes. I mean, he makes an Arazi-like move, except along the rail.
Regal Ransom and Pioneer of the Nile strikes the front just outside the 8th hole. Musket Man is coming hard down the center of the track, and Papa climbs right there too, down toward the inside, coming on through. That is Mind That Bird now.
If you look at the charts for the other dirt routes during the day at Churchill, you'll find that all of them were won by horses who came from well off the pace, who stayed along the rail, saved a lot of ground, angled out off the turn, and drew off at the end. It's exactly the same profile as Mind That Bird.
I would imagine that Mind That Bird is on his way to the Preakness. Do you know anything about the connections?
Woolley, who's a trainer whose name I knew but whose accomplishments I didn't, and was 1 for 32 this year before this race, is on the magic ride.
What do you think about the chances of Mind That Bird in the Preakness coming up, taking top honors?
In my mind, he's 1,000 to 1 to win the Preakness. The stars and constellations and planets aligned perfectly for him today. Where he goes from here, I don't know.
Okay, thanks, John. So I hope you don't eat those words. And we found out in the 2009 Kentucky Derby why they call it a horse race.